Hello everyone, and welcome to another video exploring through all of the different sheep breeds when it comes to using their wool. And today we're going to be taking a look at Texel wool. Now, this breed wasn't originally developed as a wool producer. It is in fact a meat breed, hence their very broad and stocky appearance. They are very common around the world, especially around Northern Europe, the United States, and they've now gained quite a considerable following in Australia too. But again, that's for their meat-producing qualities rather than their wool. But they do still make wool, so let's take a look at it. And the first thing you really notice about Texel wool is that it is certainly not a high luster. In fact, it's really quite matte. It just doesn't have that luxurious sheen that you're going to see on something like Falkland, for example. It's also really springy and bouncy and lofty, and when you pull the fibres apart from each other, they stay pulled apart too. They don't sink back together again like you tend to find with other more fine wools. And this is in part thanks to the wool's consistently uneven crimp. The fibre is crimped from tip to tip, but that crimp varies hugely along its length, with some being quite tightly curled, while other bits being more of a gentle wave, and this can all just be in one single fibre. But of course, we can forgive it for that. This is a meat breed wool. It has never been developed to be consistent in any way for the wool market, apart from being uniformly white. The wool is of course quite coarse. The official micron count varies anywhere between the mid-20s up to the mid-30s. However, handling the wool, I would say it sits very much on the cusp of being just soft enough to be used as clothing. It would certainly be fine for a vest or a short-sleeved jumper, something that you don't want to have right next to your skin, but it would be much too coarse for most people to have on their face. Certainly no scarves or hats, and most people might even find it too scratchy to have as gloves or socks. The staple length, much like everything else to do with Texel, is quite variable, with some fibres as short as 1 inch, while others going right up to 6 inches or more. And I found this varies an awful lot between different batches as well, with some having consistently shorter strands and some having consistently longer ones, so it can be quite challenging to get into a rhythm with the wool. I've also found that every skein of Texel I've bought has always had a smattering of Kemp through it. Not a huge amount by any means compared to some other breeds, but still, it's certainly there, and that is going to add to the coarseness and its general scritchiness. And when it comes to spinning, once again Texel is very changeable. Being a coarser wool, it's very grippy. Each strand wants to wrap around with the next one and connect together, so it's very easy to get started. However, because of the variations in staple length, this is not a wool you can just set and forget. You really do need to focus on what you're doing quite a lot. Because while it doesn't struggle to catch onto new fibres so it keeps going, and it doesn't suddenly pull away from you in the same way that a very fine wool can, it does go shorter and then longer and then shorter and then longer. And so every time you draw the wool out, you're likely to need to vary it a little bit, otherwise you will end up with a very changeable thickness of single. That's absolutely fine, so long as you want to spin art yarn, but if you're wanting to have more control and make an even yarn, then this is going to be a little bit more challenging. That variation also means I do not find Texel anyway suitable for long draw spinning. In fact, it's quite annoying to try and long draw spin with. It'll be fine for a few minutes, and then it'll suddenly decide to go short and break on you, and you'll have to go through all the palaver of fixing it back together again. It really is better being short drawn. That way, you've got time to think about and assess each draw as you're spinning it to make sure you're getting the right number of strands together. So overall, I'm going to say Texel is much more challenging than Jacob or Blueface Leicester or any of the other really coarse yarns like Herdwick, but it's not quite as faffy or needing of attention as Merino neither. It kind of sits very much in the middle ground of spinning ease. Once spun and then plied, I've also found the wool has less halo than I was expecting it to, considering how lofty it is in general and its sort of coarseness and general fluffiness. But it is a nice, solid matte wool that's quite tough and hard wearing. So overall, while Texel might not be suitable for most clothing for most people due to its coarseness, it is really good for crafts. It's fantastic for needle felting, anything that needs that coarseness. Or for rugs or blanket making because of its hard wearing qualities. It's also fairly cheap and easy to get hold of too. Anywho though, I hope you've enjoyed this little video all about Texel wool. Happy spinning everyone, and I'll see you again next time. And if anyone has any recommendations of wool or breeds or fibres they'd like me to take a look at, feel free to put them down in the comments below. Anywho, thanks again everyone, bye bye, and I'll see you again later.